Morning, everyone. My name is Tony Carkmo, President of Civil CAD Learning Solutions, and thank you for joining the Expert Elite virtual meetup. We're going to give everybody about 2 minutes to log in, give everybody opportunity to get their audio and video settings working, and then we'll get started with our video podcast. So we do have another guest speaker. Hopefully, I kind of caught in traffic right now where we're in Dallas, so hopefully, he'll make it on time. So. But thank you for joining our meeting. I hope everyone is enjoying Autodesk University, the virtual online. I think there was 100, what I've heard was 100,000 registrations. So it should be interesting how many people actually was registered for all these different classes online. So but we'll wait another about a minute or so and let everybody log in. So, but you ready to go?
I'm ready to go.
All right, cool. So, but luckily today's weather is really good, isn't it? Yeah. So, yeah. So now we do. Just let everybody know we do have. We're not looking at the chat, so we're not at this point taking any kind of questions. We're just going to do a quick introduction, talk about ourselves, and then we'll hopefully our second speaker will make it on time and talk about the Expert Elite and what he does. So let's get started. So my name is Tony. I'm also president of Civil CAD Learning Solutions. I've been in the industry for about 24 years. Started in the Air Force with AutoCAD 12. And our guest speaker is Chris Fugitt. So if you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Christopher Fugitt. You may know me from Civil 3D Reminders blog, where I've been working, and I've been in the industry for like 24 years as well, with a variety of jobs in construction, and then into working for a large AEC company, and then finally working for a large DOT, as well as being a consultant on my own for a little while.
Yeah, so if y'all don't know, if you attend AU every year at Vegas, you'll see a large group of expert elites are walking around. We're having meetings. We're actually sometimes at the answer bar, answering, providing support to the attendees. But this is I like to just be a more formal, getting to know our expert elites more in depth. So I do have a few questions. We want to kind of get to understand our expert elites. So what version of AutoCAD, what was the very first version of AutoCAD you used?
It was AutoCAD 2000i. I have no idea what the I stood for, but I was in construction, in a little construction trailer all by myself. So there really wasn't anyone to ask, and people weren't really supporting it at my construction company. And so that was kind of like my first introduction. It was kind of like, I think the I was just like an interactive splash screen that popped up. And I think there was supposed to be some community stuff with it. But I never really got to learn it at that point. It was just kind of like, here, learn it. But they didn't provide any like training tools or anything like that. And that wasn't like my main responsibility. So I didn't really get the opportunity to like get forced to learn it. And so if you aren't forced to learn it, you kind of like give up on it and move on to something else.
Yeah.
But later on, after I got out of construction, I worked for the County of San Luis Obispo, which I think I forgot to mention last time. And there I learned more about that. And that was like around the 2000s time. But they used Packsoft insteed of AutoCAD.
Yeah. So what computer were we using when you were using the AutoCAD? What version? What AutoCAD? I guess what computer desktop were we using at that time?
I have no idea. I didn't really pay attention to that because I didn't buy the computers and I had no say in the computers. So it's kind of like, you just got what you got.
Yeah, okay. My first version was actually AutoCAD 12. So I joined the military in 1997. And so we were using AutoCAD 12, and every year we upgraded to 13 and then 14. Eventually we made the big jump to AutoCAD 2000. And I think that version, there was a tremendous amount of command improvement. So I think they added like 300 commands in that version or something. So, I guess so. Now, what version are you currently using? What Autodesk products are you currently using?
Currently, I support Civil 3D 2020, and that's pretty much where I work, all we support. In the past, I have supported ImpWorks and done training and supported users for that. But primarily my main job is Civil 3D 2020. But everyone else, which we're going to release next month for where I work at. And right now we're on Civil 3D 2016. And we're finally rolling out to 2020 next month.
Okay. Did you ever have the opportunity to use AutoCAD Civil 3D 2005 when it first rolled out? I still remember it like yesterday when it rolled out, and then we were all excited about it at the time. So I don't know if you ever got to play with it when it first came out.
So when it first came out, it was kind of like a reseller did a dog and pony show for like people in my area. I live kind of in a remote area, so we don't get resellers in our area very often. And it was like an invite, and they rented a room out at the local library, and we went over there, and it was like pretty cool. Like watching them describe the menus, like you just go to this menu, and on the top is create, in the middle I think was edit, and at the bottom was report. So it was all lined up, and it was like they're showing off like how intuitive it's going to be. And I kind of miss those days when everything was like on one menu drop down.
Yeah, I remember it was the same thing. I had a reseller come into the presentation, and I thought it was the greatest thing ever since sliced bread, because we were using Land Desktop at the time. So Land Desktop was pretty good too. It was a pretty good product. But you know, since it is the very first release, it's going to have some issues, you know, and there were a lot of bugs, but it's come a long way, a tremendous way since the 2005. So I remember that I couldn't just go and Google stuff, you know, and try to find answers, because at that time there wasn't really like any blogs. There was no YouTube channels to go look up stuff. So everybody's kind of got it lucky nowadays. They can just type in AutoCAD Civil 3D and boom, millions of things pop up to go get resources. But I remember when it came out, you either had to email tech support to get answers, or you had to call them all the time. So I was like, hey, you know, I don't know how to get this feature to work. But yeah, I was really excited when I came from the resellers event. I talked to my boss, hey, we really need to get this product. You know, I think it'll save us time. And that time I was using it for plats. I think the partial tool was still around a little bit. So I was using it for plats because I was doing a lot of platting. And a little bit of surface too. I was bringing in the points and creating surfaces. So, but I still remember like it was yesterday. So, and then I also remember the actual ribbon change. If you remember when it changed in 2009 to 2010, the new ribbon came out. So that was a big change. And I still like the change. Some people still like the old classic toolbars. And I've actually had users that would actually turn off the ribbon and put all the classic toolbars back. And then when I do training, you know, they're sitting there and they're raising their hand like, I don't see that ribbon. You know, where's that button? I'm like, oh. And I look at their laptop. They're like, yeah, you turned it off. Like, well, how are you going to teach me if I don't have the ribbon? Like, you're going to need to turn the ribbon back on. I said, you can turn the ribbon on, but put the classic toolbars below it or something. So, but yeah, some people just didn't like the ribbon at all, and it took them a while to get adjusted to it. So, so you started the old version. Did you ever even have any kind of formal training before you started any kind of AutoCAD software?
Yeah, I took a training from, it's more competency now, but it was a reseller back then. And they called it jump school or some school. And so I attended that for 3 days, and kind of like, I liked how they taught it. They taught it like they give you a lecture and then you go and sit down with the product. And then they had a manual that they created and you'd go through it. And it was kind of nice because in the beginning, the manual was kind of like gave you everything step by step. And then later in the class, it gave you less steps to do. So you kind of had to intuitively learn where stuff is. And I really enjoyed that learning style rather than everything spoon fed to you, because when it's spoon fed, I feel you'd learn less able to learn it. And so that was like my first, and then getting involved in the forums is really good, because I would like read almost every post that was on there for like 3 or 4 years. And you just learned like really quickly, like all the pitfalls of the program and all the benefits. And it was really rewarding to go and like, oh, here's the question. I don't know how to do this. And then go find the complex solution to solve their problems. Like adding commas into a label. Like
Yeah.
today, it's really easy because it's part of the product.
Yeah.
But way back in 2007, you wanted to put your area as commas. You had to do a huge expression for each one of the digits. And
I remember that.
and so it was kind of like cool, like go figure
Yeah.
all those stuff out.
Yeah. Yeah. I used to be deep into the forums too, just to go get answered, because everyone had their own kind of workaround, you know. So while we're waiting for service packs or hot fixes to come out, we'd go to the forums, say, hey, I got a situation, and everybody's kind of sharing their knowledge of workarounds, you know,
Yeah.
or I'll share it in there, other CAD managers and BIM managers sharing. So that's a really good thing, was the forum to go get
Yeah.
answered. But sometimes you get 20 different resolutions. You're trying to figure out which one really works for your type of templates and what you're doing. So you had to be kind of cautious sometimes too. So especially if they talk about going into your CUI or CUX, you know, you're like, I think I'll wait for that one to be last before I go in and start changing the CUI.
And you really have to know to pick the solution that
Yep.
follows the way your mind works.
Yeah.
Right. Because I give like lots of solutions to people, and I can instantly tell that they don't get it because their mind doesn't work the same way as mine does. And it's kind of like, I need to come up with a different way to approach this that'll meet their needs.
Yeah. Yeah. As a CAD manager, I did it for 12 years. I would try to find the simplest kind of dumbed down solution for all my users. Hey, you know, try to make it simple that it doesn't confuse them. I can just come in, somebody that just barely knows AutoCAD, and I can give them that workaround. They understand it. So, okay. So did you get any kind of formal training when you did Civil 3D, or when you started using Civil 3D, or were you doing that kind of that other, where you talked about that kind of formal training, or did you go to any classes or anything like that?
I just went to the class,
Okay.
and then after the class, I kind of became the advocate for Civil 3D.
Okay.
So the office that I worked on, it was kind of like one of those situations where they expect you to know Land Desktop. And then when they tell you that they expect you to know Land Desktop, your expectation is you're going to go into a situation where everyone's using Land Desktop and everyone's using it like to the fullest. But when I got there, it was clear that no one was really using Land Desktop to the fullest. They were just using it to create alignments, and then they would do everything else by hand pretty much.
Oh, wow.
And so I saw Civil 3D in that 2005 beta. And when I got to the large AEC firm that I worked at, I was going and asking IT, hey, can I get Civil 3D installed? And then they were like hesitant because they really didn't know me. And you're so used to users who don't know anything and aren't willing to share their information that it took me like a year or so to finally get Civil 3D installed.
Wow.
And so once I got it installed and took the training, then I was the person like going through and trying to figure out how to work it, teaching everyone in the office how to use the alignment. It would have been nice if we had like CAD support, but that wasn't the case.
When we purchased it, they allowed me to go to one class, and it was like a 2-day, all-day class. And it was just overwhelming because it's just too much information to take in, and learning the software for the first time and seeing the software for the first time. So I did a lot of self-training. I went like literally every day during lunch. I would go to the forums and read, and then people started creating blogs too later on, after the first release, maybe the 2006 and 2007 version. I started going to people's blogs and reading the people's blogs and say, hey, I'm learning this. So, but every day during lunch, I would do self-training for, 15 years almost. Go read people's blogs, go look at anything on the forums. And then I would go home and actually spend like an hour and a half just playing with the software. And that's how I learned. I actually took one class. That was that first release, and that was it. Now, when around 2012, when I came to Dallas, I started attending a lot of the user group events that resellers had. So I took advantage of that because some of the engineering companies did not just really have time to allow people to go to training and stuff. So we'd go during lunch or after work to go to these user groups and go take some of these classes and stuff. So, and it was free too. Some engineering companies don't have the budget to send somebody, or don't have the time to, hey, we've got a lot of projects going on. We don't have time to take you to send you, but we know it's beneficial for you. So, so I took an initiative, and it's just, hey, I'm just going to go to these user groups. And so, but now most of them are kind of around between 2014 and 2020, they kind of disappeared, and now they're slowly trying to come back with Autodesk Group Network. You also have the Augie international group there. But here in Dallas, I'm in Dallas location. It actually started fading away, all these user groups and stuff.
Yeah.
So the resellers, you know, also the resellers are starting to disappear too, you know,
Yep.
slowly.
The market's
So
changing.
yep.
Well, going back to training,
Yeah.
when users come to my training sessions, I always try to remind them that we aren't here to teach you to be an expert in the product, Civil 3D.
Yeah.
We're primarily here to let you know.
Come on in, Todd.
Hey, come on, Todd.
Yeah. Get your mic. Well, yep. So
It's to let you know that's there. So when you're in that production environment,
yeah,
you know that the tool is there. So you can spend the time and go learn more resources.
Yeah.
Go find those resources.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily to teach you how to create a profile, although we show you the tools.
Yeah.
It's so you know, like, oh, it's possible.
Yeah.
And that's always that you need to do more self-training once you get out of the class. You're never going to be an expert in a class.
Exactly. So some of the people that would attend some of the, you know, classes that I taught, or when I was teaching as a CAD manager, they'd come in thinking that they had to learn every single button. You know, like they get overwhelmed, they see the interface, like, man, that's a lot of tools. And look, you're going to learn about 20% of the platform, the Civil 3D. You know, you're never going to use all these tools and stuff, unless you're going to be the CAD manager for that company. But even then, do you ever use 100% of every tool and aspects of Civil 3D? No, you won't. You know, so so we want to introduce yourself.
Hello, Todd Rogers. How are you?
So who are you with? What do you do?
I'm BIM manager for Walter P. Moore. Been there going on 3 years now. Left the.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, I brought that. That's my anger from the traffic here. Yeah, so I've worked in production for 16 years. Left to go work for an Autodesk reseller. Did that for 10. And as most of you know, the reseller business is pretty much going to the wayside. Been going on 3 years.
Okay. Like I asked Chris, what was the very first version of AutoCAD you used?
Release 10 for DOS.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So do you remember the actual computer you were using with that?
I do. It was a 386 DX66, had 4 megs of RAM, and it was a screamer.
Oh, man. Man, okay. So when you first started using this first version of product, did it actually train you, or did you just do it on your desk and say, hey, can you start learning how to use this? Did you get any kind of formal training before you started using it?
Well, I went to the Art Institute of Houston, and it was very CAD heavy, luckily. Yeah. And when I started working, it took me about 6 months to find a job. Thank God it was in civil engineering and not architecture.
Yeah.
So I started working there, and I told the boss at the time, I said, man, I know everything there is to know about AutoCAD. It was the stupidest thing I ever said in my life. So yeah.
So what version are you currently using? What kind of version of Autodesk product are you using at your office right
I'm
now?
using it at the office. We're on 2020.5.1 right now, as of Monday of this week.
Okay.
Because, you know, they jerked .5 and they released .5.1 Monday. So that's what they're running. I'm running 2021 myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. What products are you currently using other than just like Civil 3D? Are you using the other products?
I am. Civil 3D, InfraWorks, Navisworks, 3ds Max, Recap, and lots of other software that's not.
Autodesk. Yeah. So, okay, cool.
So we utilize, or I utilize, the AEC collection pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty heavily.
Yeah. I keep mostly vehicle tracking, add-on
tracking.
And sometimes SSA. I'll go do some simple stuff in SSA for
big,
hydrology. So
hydrologist.
No, I enjoy it, but I just do the simple stuff on there. Yeah, I don't go and do the really complicated stuff.
So that stuff I hit up Brian Haley.
Yeah, there you go. So yeah, but if y'all don't know, Brian Haley is another expert elite. So he was able to attend this event. So each one of you, I want you to share a funny story about either learning the product or using the product, or when you were designing, and just, you know, we're not perfect. I'm definitely not perfect. I've made mistakes when I was using the software, learning the software, you know. I shared a story with, I think I may have shared a story with the last video with Rachel and Adam. But if you want to share a funny story, you know, show people, like, hey, look, we all make mistakes. We're not perfect, even as expert leads. And I'll never claim that I know everything in Civil 3D. No way, you know, because if you don't use it for years, some parts of it, like the survey module tool, I haven't used it for years. So I'm definitely not an expert in that little section, you know, of Civil 3D. But I'll go first. So for example, I mean, I think I shared this with y'all before, but I remember when I was using Civil 3D, I think it was 2006 version, and someone had gone in there, or I've accidentally pressed a button for the line weights, and it came on, all the thickness of the line weights came on, and I'm freaking out. I didn't know what it was. I'm like, what's going on? And we had something due that day, and, you know, trying to print it, and I was like, what in the world's going on? And I kept closing, running an audit, and I'm freaking out, and it's like 2 hours before the print. And so I pulled it back up and started working again. I guess I accidentally hit it or ran the command again, and it came back on. And eventually turned it off, and I felt like an idiot because it was just a button, you know. I'm like, oh my goodness, I got to get more familiar with all these buttons and stuff like that. But luckily it wasn't no one else was around at the time. But I really did feel like a fool because I never used the line weights. You know, I only test the line weights when I print. I said, hey, now, you know, I'm using my pin settings, but I never use the line weights to see what it visually looks like on the screen. So I never use the line weights. I know some people use the line weights and stuff, but that's kind of one of my funny stories. Is another funny story I have is I was doing grading, and I was doing some feature lines and creating some vertical differences, and I'm in a rush. It's a fairly good sized subdivision, and I forgot the decimal and typed in a big number, and I had the auto rebuild on, you know. And so it literally hung up the project, and then I guess when it crashed, it did a save at the same time. So the drawing went from a 20 megabyte drawing to a 800 megabyte drawing. So I'm like, I was at home, so I didn't need backup. So it didn't need me backup because I wasn't at the office. And I'm freaking out because it was due first thing in the morning, these grading plans and stuff. So when I pulled up the drawing, it'd take 20 minutes to load. And anything I clipped, it took 15 minutes to just run, just panning or anything. So it took me 3 hours to go back and find the actual point that I needed to delete, you know. So eventually I had to just go into my Surface and just delete everything and just throw all the feature lines back in there one by one. You know, I remember where I left off. So, but it took me 3 hours to fix the problem because it was just hanging 20 minutes. And then I would pan and then click on the icon, another 15 minutes would hang there. I'm like, oh my goodness, you know.
Well, the good news is I think Autodesk fixed that issue.
So,
and it no longer draws all the contours if you make that mistake.
Now I just turn off the automatic rebuild now. When I'm doing bigger problems, I just turn it off, especially corridors too.
Yeah.
You know, so, but that's kind of two funny stories I've had, you know, where I learned from my mistakes of doing things, certain workflows. So, yeah. So you want to share one?
Sam Lucido, I think, is also an expert elite, and he was tweeting about his class at AU about Sheet Set Manager. And that just reminds me of the time that I went to AU and I learned about Sheet Set Manager, and I took a programming class because we had like huge projects where we had like 100 sheets, and we'd insert a sheet in the middle and someone would have to spend like 15 minutes like typing the number or pressing enter. And so I spent like 24 hours like taking that class and information and creating a tool. And I probably spent like my own personal time, if I were to assign like $50 an hour, I probably spent like $2,000 or $1,000 of effort to do that. Right? But I could have just gone on the website, like Googled it and found JTB World's like solution, which is like $20 a seat. And it just does it really quickly. You just hit a button and it does it. It did the same thing that I did, right? I could have saved myself all that time just because I didn't look at third-party software solutions to kind of like solve my problems instead of spending all my time doing it.
Yeah, there's a lot of great third-party stuff out there. You just got to find it, you know. You know, Chris has pointed out to a bunch of them to me, and but yeah, there's a lot of great stuff out there that people have actually created. So I highly recommend just doing some searches on Google or going to the Autodesk desktop app store and looking for some of these third-party apps on Civil 3D. So, yep. Do you want to share one?
Yeah,
I'm sure you got a few.
I just got trained in 2006 on Civil 3D, and it's a feature line story. I had an existing detention pond. They were wanting to make it wider and deeper, so I drew the feature line around it, put the existing elevations on it, drew the proposed around it, put the proposed elevations on it, and I was like, well, I'm just going to check, make sure all my elevations are right. So I went to the existing one, and they changed. So I was like, okay, so that's weird. So I fixed them and went and checked the proposed one, and they changed. I was like, okay. So I jacked with this for about 6 hours. And I finally called up the reseller and was like, man, what's going on here? He's like, are they on the same site? I was like, yeah. So, yeah.
Sites, yeah, that'll definitely get you. You know, it's sometimes when I'm teaching, it's some people struggle to understand how the sites work. You know, why it's important.
Thinks site is your site.
Yeah. So and then they'll ask like, why do you even have sites? You know, like so I try to explain to them some of why the importance of sites in Civil 3D when dealing with feature lines, and even parcels. So so yeah. So if you use parcels for platting or even drainage areas, I use parcels for drainage areas and stuff. So, okay. So, which software you think is the hardest that you've dealt with to learn?
Max.
Max? What about you? Have you played with any other software, Chris?
I think Microsoft Access.
Microsoft Access?
Oh,
is
gosh.
it?
Yeah, that's a toughie.
Especially if you don't have someone to like to ask how to do something with it.
Yes.
And you're dealing with custom forms that someone created who may not be at the your place of work anymore, and just trying to figure out their logic of how everything works.
Yes.
I would say the hardest one I've tried to learn was Max. It was number one, and Civil 3 had to be number two. You know, yeah, I tried, and I even took a class at AU, and it was a lab class. Like, oh, this is easy. Then when I get back to at the office and try to redo it, or just do something different besides the lab, then yeah, it was very frustrating because it's totally different than Civil 3D and just the way the interface works and everything, all the pull downs, different pull downs and stuff. So, but yeah, Max is a very difficult one. So I don't know about Revit. I've dabbled with it. I don't think it's too difficult to me. I think it's I think it's a little bit below Civil 3D.
Shortcut commands that everybody uses. It's weird.
Yeah.
Because you double tap some keys.
Yeah. Map 3D I think is pretty simple to learn. InfoWorks is probably the simplest one to learn to me. Most user friendly. Let's just say user friendly. Most user friendly to learn.
That Navis.
Navisworks I think it's kind of easy to learn too. I've done some projects with Navisworks. Let's see, AutoCAD is pretty simple too. So other recap, vehicle tracking. I think it's kind of the same level to me as AutoCAD. But okay. So if you had free time, okay, what Autodesk product would you want to learn how to use if you had free time to do it? So. Not for work, maybe personal reasons, just, hey, I really like to see what I can do with this product. So,
probably Maya for me.
Yeah. Chris?
Every like 2 or 3 years, I sit down and try to learn Revit.
Yeah.
So kind of like model my existing house in it. Like maybe we want to add a room to it.
Yeah.
I'll create Revit, and then like 2 or 3 hours later, something else catches my eye, and I'm going to go do that because I don't really want to learn this anymore. Until another 2 years comes, and then I'm back in.
I've done the same thing. I've kind of dabbled in Revit, and then I'll ask some buddies, like some friends that know Revit here local, but then I get distracted with the other products. New tools come out and stuff. So I like kind of the 3D products, the Maya.
So
because one time I had a vision of creating my own little short film with Maya or something, but Autodesk related and stuff. So I had it installed, but never really turned it on. Really just installed it. So, but I see the benefits. I see people blabbing with it. And, I think it'd be cool to create your own character and make a little 15-minute short film.
Absolutely.
Throw it out there. Maybe I'll make the Sundance.
Expert elite troll or something.
Expert troll or something. So yeah, I thought it'd be cool to learn. And if you ever seen the amount of 3D models, some modeling software that Autodesk has,
Yeah.
it's crazy.
Yeah,
I mean, there's a bunch of them I've never even heard of, but they're there for 3D modeling. The types of modeling you're doing, if it's modeling for VR or movies, you know, if some of y'all don't know, some of these movies out here that does a lot of special effects, like I think one of the Transformer movies, or one or two of them, used, I think, Maya, some of the Autodesk products on there to do some of these animations. And Max, yeah. So.
I did use 3ds Max to win a trip to AU one year.
There we go.
So I sat down and learned it.
You know, Autodesk is partnered up with Unity,
Yeah.
which I've been playing around with a little bit. It's
Yeah.
a little tough.
Yeah.
Now we do have a virtual reality team in the Tampa office that uses it pretty exclusively.
Oh, wow.
So,
Yeah, that would be nice to have your own department for all the visual effects and stuff, and they can do VR, 3D modeling, using gaming systems for designing stuff. So I think that's pretty cool to have that kind of in your company, engineer or architectural. So, so what are your thoughts about AR and VR? Do you think it's just a gimmick, or do you think it's going to be productive in the future? Or is it just a hot item that year, and then everybody's kind of, okay, that's enough of that. Let's move on to something else.
It's progressing,
Yeah.
you know, daily.
Yeah.
Especially AR.
Yeah.
I've seen some real cool GIS stuff with AR here lately that's really catching my eye. VR, we actually used. We have a development team as well, and they developed an interface for taking a tour in the SoFi Stadium.
Okay.
Because we did the SoFi Stadium, and I actually got to play around with it, and you could sit in any seat in the stadium and see what it was like to see the field.
Yeah.
And it was pretty cool.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So and we do it a lot. So I don't see it slowing down anytime.
Were you using it for design, or just strictly marketing and selling the product for the client?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
So if any of y'all watched the presentation that was on last night during happy hour, we did the design slam against HOK, and it showed some of our VR stuff in it. And basically what you can do is you have what we showcased was we had the building design, and you could change the facades. You know, you just change a facade and see what the facade would look like, you know. So it's really not for show, you know, that we're utilizing it for.
Yeah.
It's like I said, you sit in the seat in the stadium and see what that seat would look like, or, you know, change a facade of a building.
Yeah.
You know, see what that would look like.
Yeah.
You know, the client, ooh, I like that facade better than the other facade because this, that, and the other, and then you go from there.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And, yeah, I've done a few smaller VR projects. Mostly it's for marketing, or I'll use it to take to a city council meeting or neighborhood meeting for a small developer, and he's selling that vision to the city council or zoning board meeting and say, hey, this is kind of going to be kind of the preliminary concept of the project. So if it's a difficult site to sell, that's when I use a 3D model and say, hey, because a 2D sheet or one little angle on SketchUp or something is not going to do it. You know, they want to be able to look around, look at the even shadow casting of you've got commercial building or apartment complex, the lighting. So doing it in VR, or even with a 3D model in ImpWorks or any other platform, I think it is beneficial for difficult sites. You don't need it for every project.
Well, you
know,
can't
not
take
every
a set
project,
of black lines into a council meeting these days. They're just like, what is this?
So
how is this affecting my home when you're revamping the street and my driveway? You know, they can't tell.
But I've used it a couple of times. Have y'all seen it anywhere? Like, have you seen it in California? Any kind of projects being done with VR and AR technology?
Primarily, that's where I work. It's consultants who do that. So we typically farm that out. Like, I think the most famous one is for where I work is the car that you could drive in, and you could drive over one of the Bay Bridges in San Francisco.
Nice.
So we don't really support that where I work. If we do need it for a project, like Tony was saying, like it's for like once in a while projects or specific projects, And on those, since we don't want to support it all the time, we let the consultants do it.
Yeah, I did it for one time for a 28 building apartment complex. And I just kind of threw it into InfoWorks, put it together in like 2 days, and then threw it into the simple, render, the simple Autodesk render, and put it in VR, and then took it to our client, and then they loved it, and then it was used really for marketing and stuff like that.
The stuff Matt Wunsch uses?
No, just the simple Autodesk stuff, that we have right now. When you just push it, like who did that simple VR? Somebody did a simple VR training course on YouTube. So, but okay. So next question. What's one important tip you would give somebody when using like Civil 3D or AutoCAD or InfoWorks that you would want to share? Say, hey, this is a really great tip that you should know. What's important? One important tip you would share to our attendees. So.
Civil 3D.
You don't have to be the best tip. Everybody's got that one tip that really sets them apart from other companies. Yeah. You don't have to share the tip that saves you 15, 20 minutes. What's one good tip that you probably just can't Google and find out there?
My tip is Civil 3D is just a matching game, and don't overthink Civil 3D.
Yeah.
So often I try to teach people, and I'll say this is just a matching game. If you're asking me what style to pick for your frontage road, and we have a frontage road alignment, you aren't playing the matching game very well.
Yeah.
And Civil 3D isn't trying to trick you. So just trust your matching game abilities that Grover taught you, or Elmo taught you, or whatever decade you grew up on with Sesame Street, whatever character was the main character. They did a really good job in teaching us the matching game.
Yeah.
And just trust your skills on the matching.
Yeah.
If you want to export something from Civil 3D, the output tab is another word for export, and that's the matching game.
Yeah.
And then go match what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
And if you want to know how to export to HEC-RAS from Civil 3D, use the matching game. Go up to the output tab, look for HEC-RAS, and push it, and that usually gets you where you're going. Civil 3D is not trying to trick you.
Yeah.
So play the matching game.
Yeah.
I know everyone knows how to play the matching game.
Yeah,
and have some fun.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
What you got?
I would say don't start a project without a template file.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I've
Otherwise,
seen
you're
it for
gonna be
years where
lost.
people will just do a save as from a previous project,
Yeah.
or just copy that whole base file, just delete the line work from the previous project and say, okay, there's a new template or something. Or you get in a template and it has like 1,000 layers in there, every single style. So the user, like the EIT, well, the problem, I would get questions from the EIT or designer and say, hey, which style do I use? There's 500, a good example, one time I got in there on somebody's project and I clicked on just labeling a pipe network, and it was 50 labels for the pipe styles, and it was all related to storm, just storm, not water, sewer, storm pipe. It was just a storm, 50 label styles for pipe of a storm. Like, that's just too much, that's excessive. So they were creating one for just changing one word in every style. I'm like, whoa, yeah, that's just too much,
Yeah.
So, try to make it simple. That's why I would say make the style simple when you're doing Civil 3D. You don't have to create style for every single situation where I'm just changing a letter or word.
Exactly.
So typically the templates I have, if I go into my utility templates, I think there's probably at the most 50 styles for just labeling my pipes. That's pipes and structures. So it's just 50 styles. That's it at the most. Yeah. So, yeah, templates is very crucial. One tip I'd probably to share, if you don't, some people ask, where do you get all your contours if you don't have the survey yet? I said, use InfoWorks. InfoWorks is amazing, and I use it for all my projects. So if you're doing, you haven't got the contract yet for your project, and you need to do exhibits and do some preliminary analysis, drainage, I go to InfoWorks and download the contours, and it's perfect for what I need to do. So I've actually did a comparison. One time I went and just looked on Google Earth, and then went through the USGS maps and did a comparison of InfoWorks and then USGS maps and Google Earth Pro, and looked at the elevation differences and stuff. And then looked at an as-built drawing of the same property and see how close it was. InfoWorks was pretty close.
Yeah.
You gotta be careful with Google Earth Pro, but one time it was 2 foot off. And And I was like, whoa, that's a big difference.
Kind of
Yeah.
determines where you're at too,
Yeah.
because I've got that in InfoWorks as well. But
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
it's just
So,
an
but-
adjustment.
Yep. So I highly encourage people to use InfoWorks to bring in contours just to do exhibits, and then once you get the survey, then go back and reanalyze everything. So that's kind of my tip there. So, all right. So what would be one wish item if you could have it tomorrow, what would it be in Civil 3D? So, may not come, I'm sure maybe you've added it on the wish list, but I love to have it started
I think
tomorrow.
it's coming.
So
As far as the keynote yesterday, but grading is awful.
yeah,
Always been awful. It's been awful since Land Development
Yeah.
Desktop. You can construct a drawing just like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So grading.
yeah,
But
yeah. It still needs some improvement on the grading.
Ground Force is supposed to be released to the AEC collection,
Yeah.
first of the year. So
Yeah,
that and from what I've seen in that little 10-second snippet,
Yeah.
it looks like it's improved tremendously, because I played with it in the labs for a while,
Yeah.
well, beta,
Yeah.
and it was bad too. So, but
It's-
it
yeah.
looks like the whole interface has
Yeah.
changed.
it's
Now
come a
you
long
can-
way.
it's
Yeah,
come
since
a
I
very
played
long
with
way.
it. I've been working with Autodesk team, and it's come a long ways. It'll never be perfect. There's no such thing as a perfect software. That's
Right.
why there's
Yeah.
service packs, hot fixes, and stuff. So there's no such thing as a perfect software. But it has come a long way, and it is very new. So we know once it gets released, there's going to be some issues with it.
Notepad's pretty
Yeah.
good software. Notepad.
Notepad.
It's pretty solid.
It's pretty solid. It doesn't need updates and stuff. So, but yeah. So Chris, what would be the one tool you would want like tomorrow in Civil 3D?
Working for a transportation agency,
Yeah.
it's going to be intelligent metal beam guardrail.
Yeah.
So going to like BIM processes that we take our existing survey and maybe where our new design is going to be, like where our signs are going to be,
Yeah.
where the bridges are going to be, and have Civil 3D identify that based on what metal beam guardrail gets placed, where those obstructions are that we want to protect the motorist from.
Yeah.
And that you'd go and it would automatically pick it, and you could pick like whatever type it is that you have at your agency, and then you could go in and swap out it. But Civil 3D would do the initial analysis to tell you where the metal beam guardrail needs
Yeah.
to go and place some type of version there. So it would automatically tie into your bridge approaches and pick one based on it.
Yeah.
And if you want to go to a different one, you could right click and swap it
Yeah.
and have that intelligence there. Because right now, Civil 3D tends to make you do all the work and not have a whole lot of automation. And I think over the last 4 or 5 decades, when you go to AU, you see all this cool stuff from the mechanical side
Yeah.
that does
Yeah.
like all this automation stuff that makes these cool things. And I'm just looking for like lines and arcs
Yeah.
to get drawn automatically based
Yeah.
on the obstructions that we're trying to protect
Yeah.
motorists from.
Yeah.
So are y'all pushing your transportation products to BIM? Are you pushing them up to BIM? Are you utilizing BIM for transportation?
I haven't found a product that has BIM in it. Once I find that product,
Yeah.
I'd definitely be advocating for it.
Oh, nice.
I guess, I mean, there's a lot of things I would want in Civil 3D, but I deal with a lot of the clients, and they want quantities, always quantities, construction cost estimating and stuff.
Yeah.
So if I'm dealing with pipes, I would love to see there might be a third party out there, maybe I haven't found it yet, for
Hill.
trenching of all the
Steve Hill.
piping and stuff
Yeah.
like that. For all pipes, even pressure pipes, gravity pipes and stuff, and it automatically will create the trench for you too, and does calculations for the trench automatically. And so if I move the pipe, the trench automatically is tied with it. So the width, is tied with it too. So,
like that.
and I had spreadsheets that would tie to the pipes, and then it would calculate all my construction costs for me. But if you could do it within the surface too, I think that would be great, because a lot of my clients will say, well, I need to know all the trenching cost estimates going on in the backfill going in, the type of material. And that takes time for a big project, to calculate all that stuff. So
Yeah.
I think that's one tool I would love to kind of see, into Civil 3D. So I spend a lot of time with construction cost estimating and stuff like that, and quantities with my clients and developers. So
And when you do it manually, it's never the same twice.
Yeah. I remember the old days where I had to print a piece of paper and we're highlighting all the sewer and all the sewer pipes and we're writing it down, and then you go to the next sheet. And now we're doing water. It's a different highlighter and you're highlighting, putting the quantities. That's really old school.
And you have somebody else do it.
And somebody will double check it. Yeah, somebody will end up double checking that stuff.
Never had the same numbers.
Yeah. So I guess here we're running down to our last few minutes here. So where do you see Civil 3D or InfoWorks or other products going? You think in the future maybe there'll be some mergers of some products, or do you think new products will merge and make other products obsolete, like Civil 3D or something? What do you know? So we've heard some stories, the roadmaps on the beta and stuff like that, but where do you feel or like to see where it goes, I guess? So, and this is not coming from Autodesk, it's strictly our opinion. So where do you see the future going with these products and stuff? Our personal opinion. So
Autodesk steadily buying stuff. Project Explorer, fantastic tool. It's one of the best things they've ever done to Civil 3D. It's something we've been screaming for a while. I don't ever see Civil 3D leaving as of now. We were dying for Land Desktop to go away, and it finally did. But I don't see it changing into anything, there's always rumors, it's going to be like a Revit environment, or Civil 3D is going to be InfoWorks now. I don't see that. I honestly don't see that. It's too much of an engineering software.
I would love to see Recap as a workspace in Civil 3D. It should be its own separate platform to me. I think it should just be a workflow. I could just change the ribbon like Map 3D. I'd love to see just Recap embedded into it. And I'd love to see InfoWorks as an interface into Civil 3D. So I could just change it besides going to two different platforms back and forth. So it'd be really nice. Like, hey, I'm going to start a preliminary plan, 3D model. I'm going to go to my InfoWorks workspace, flip it. I'm done with that. Now flip it back to Civil 3D. So the interface changes that stuff. I don't probably not
many of their products use the RCS format now.
But I'd love to see that, because Revit, what they combine the Revit structure and the Revit MEP all together into one product. I wish we could get all these civil products onto one. We already have AutoCAD, Civil 3D, vehicle tracking, SSA all into one. Go ahead and get Recap in there. Go ahead and get InfoWorks in there. So most likely it's not possible, but for coding and other issues, but I'd love to see that just combined to one software, one place I can do everything. So what do you think? What do you think, Chris?
Well, I'm hoping the API gets more complete. So then I could either ask Autodesk to come up with features. And if they decline, go and create those great automation tools that really save the users some time. So I brought up the artificial intelligence metal beam guardrail, but I have created a metal beam guardrail tool, but it has a lot of user interaction. They've got to do a lot of steps to put it in the right spot. But hopefully someday a lot of those holes in the products we design, the things we design get in the product.
I had a good conversation with Nigel Peters yesterday about the API. It was an interesting conversation where they're trying to go with it, and the reason that they can't, so. It's on a whole
nother story. So I guess I'd like to share, one last topic to the guys. Hey, just because we're expert lead doesn't mean, some people ask, well, you know everything. No, we don't know everything, but I think we know enough to help people get where they need to be with a product, or help them with tech support. And we like to share our experiences, because sometimes as a CAD manager, somebody asks like, well, why didn't you do it this way? I'm like, well, we've tried it that way maybe 10 years ago. We've been there, we've done that. I'm trying to save you time from going backwards, So I've always kind of run into designers and drafters where they create an idea and say, that's great, but it doesn't work. Trust me, because I've been there, I've done it, I want to save you time and headache and heartache, and make sure you don't fall behind your design by doing it that kind of workflow,
or give up on it,
or give up on it. So, well, anyway, thanks everyone. I want to thank Todd and Chris for coming out. And here in a few minutes, we're going to start the trivia game. So we're going to actually have some photos on the screen of different Autodesk products, and people online can actually answer the questions on a message board, a chat, and try to guess the Autodesk product. So I did make some of these very challenging. So most of them I don't even heard of seen before. So and so you have to guess the actual product and what version it is. So it should be interesting. So I will be writing it down on paper here and see, if we can guess any of these here. I've already seen the answers, so I can't guess, but let's see if Chris and Todd can guess some of these products and stuff. So, but thanks everyone for coming out, and hopefully you'll join the trivia games here. We got coming up here at 10 o'clock, and we'll see you shortly. Thank you.